Wesart ye hall, Echata Kevin. This video is going to be translating an excerpt of an Anglo-Saxon text called the Anglo-Saxon Maxims I of a stanza that mentions the Anglo-Saxon deity Woden. And by this, we're talking about something from pre-Christian. Well, we're talking about a deity that was worshipped in pre-Christian England. But this text itself that we're going to be looking at dates roughly from the 10th century, so 900s. And it's so interesting that this is a few hundred years after the Christianization of England. We still have the name Woden being mentioned. And for those of you who are not familiar with Anglo-Saxon spirituality, pre-Christian Anglo-Saxon spirituality, that Woden is the king of the gods, right? So, and the nature of Anglo-Saxon poetry is that it's not so much there's rhymes, rather, well, there's one text that does have rhymes, but most literature of this time, well, in England and elsewhere, it's the emphasis is on what is called alliterative verse. So before us here we have Woden, worhte, weos. So we have a lot of W's at the start of the words. So it's not so much on rhymes, but words that start with the same letter. Let's move right on. So here's the text itself, the stanza itself. So I'm just going to read this out, and then we'll translate line by line. Woden, worhte, weos, wolder alwalda, rumma roderas, that is riche gold. Sølv solfkuning, saula nergend. Seus al for jalf that way on livjaf. Und eft at am ende, alum waldeth monna kunna. That is melted silver. And there you have it. And let's translate this thing because why not? Okay. Woden, worhte, weos, wolder alwalda. So what is going on here? So Woden is pretty self-evident. It's the appellation of the god himself. Woden, king of the gods. Worhte, this is interesting of itself, because it's the past tense of the verb Wyrcan or Wyrcian, of work. So essentially, Woden worked. But the nature of a verb in Old English, because thing is, some verbs, because we're talking about a language here that uses the inflected case system. So worhte, in this context, is using its object, so to speak, is in the genitive. All right, so like German, Old English has the inflected case system where you have nominative, accusative, genitive, dative, and a fifth one called instrumental. So in this case, we're dealing with the instrumental. And how you would translate this, how you translate a text, one has to keep in mind the inflected case system, because that plays a role in how you translate something. So here are some little images here that like from the BT dictionary that show that what context would this verb be when using the genitive. So we have to work, to effect a purpose, to attain an object, and then we have here to work, do, perform. So that's something to bear in mind. As well, that it's also worth saying that with verbs in Old English, depending on the nature of the verb, it could take other cases too. It's not just one case. I mean, it depends on the nature of the verb itself, whether it's a transitive or intransitive. So so intransitive or non-transitive, if you will, are verbs that don't have an object. Like, for example, in English, sleep, that doesn't take an object. Just whereas transitive, it has an object. So I give the book. So give. I give the book to so and so. Right. That's give is a transitive verb. Anyway, let's move right on. So we're dealing with a genitive, an object in the genitive, a noun in the genitive, and so uh, Woden workte weos Wolder awalda. So Woden worked. So the word weos here is interesting of itself. There are other variations of this, weich and weoch, and its genitive. I would think genitive singular, very specifically, is weos, as we see with feoch, with its deletion of h, final h, inserting the s, I guess for easier pronunciation. Usually, when this happens, when you get rid of an h, you would have what is called vowel compensation. So this would be the case in other nouns or other words where you have like a medial h and in one word, but another variant of the same word, you would remove that h and the vowel that precedes it would be lengthened, would be stressed. But anyway, but that's a little digression. But so we see a deletion of h in both words. So and these would indicate both the genitive singular. So that's something to bear in mind. But the nature of what this noun means, weos, because weos, weoch, or weich, or we, depending on whether it's palatalized or depending where and when. In many compounds, this weoch word, I would translate it as image to be respectful, but other people who translate this stuff come from an Abrahamic background and would translate this as idol. I'm not an Abrahamist, so I would translate this as image, to be respectful, because even pre-Christian England used sacred imagery of the gods and goddesses, as you would see in ancient Rome and ancient Greece, and of like Zeus and Jupiter and stuff like that. So what to say of for the Anglo-Saxons, right? So, but just to go across the pond, so to speak, across the the North Sea, so to speak, we have weoch. It's also related to weihen in German, meaning to consecrate, to make holy, to and all that, because their word for Christmas is of Weihnachten, so holy nights, and Weih, so to speak, is related to, it has its origins in Old High German Weich, that which of itself back then meant holy as an adjective, but as a noun it means sacred place. So that's something to bear in mind, and this would help us with our translation here, because when it comes to translating, one has to bear in mind the whole stanza itself for context. Because if you translate things in isolation without regard for context, then you're going to get a very funny, removed translation. So, and next we have Woldor, which is simply glory, and this is a neuter noun. And Allwalda is interesting. And Allwalda, well, all, and wald means in this context like power. So, and that final a there, that is a to denote a male agent, so to speak. So when you see this, this is a weak masculine noun, and weak masculine nouns in the nominative case end with an a. All right, so in the second clause here we have glory, powerful one, but you could translate in isolation. You could translate this as he who is all powerful, but given the context and proverbial room for translation here, I would translate this as all powerful one. With the prerequisite knowledge that one there indicates a male agent, so to speak. So I translate here: Woden worked of a sacred place, glory all powerful one. Where does this of come from? Well, again, how you translate something, one has to bear in mind the case system. So weos is in the genitive, and the genitives, when you translate them, they're like when you translate them in the present English, you got to throw in that of, so to get the meaning conveyed, right? So, and the indefinite article there, that's so it's more suitable for a present English speaking audience. So okay, so we have Woden worked of a sacred place, glory all powerful one. Fantastic. Okay, moving right on. So Ruma roderas thatis richa gold. So Ruma, this is a adjective, as I interpret it, an adjective in the plural, because roderas is in the plural, and we see that with the final as is in the plural, and Ruma roderas is essentially saying spacious. Well, I put spacious upper regions, but you could translate this as skies or heavens. But we got to bear in mind here, we're talking about a celestial metaphysical personality, aka a god. So we're talking about Woden here. We're talking about the king of the gods here. So, Woden, we have to bear in mind, this is not just any divinity we're talking about here. So, and we learn from the Norse literature that this is a personality that travels through realms. So with this, having this prerequisite knowledge of the deity in question, in my case, influences how I translate this. So spacious upper regions. I mean, you could translate Ruma as like ample, but like we're talking about a locale, so to speak, and so it makes sense to say spacious. I mean, you could say roomy, but like, that's not very formal now, is it? But yeah, I don't know. The roomy of itself would make it sound like, in the context of like comfortable, like homey or something like that. Like a homebody, or I don't know. Anyway, so we got that is Richa God. So that is Richa. In this context, since we're talking about a king, the king of the gods here, Richa would make sense to be translated as powerful, and Richa in this context is an adjective, so powerful god, good. All right, so yeah, so let's move right on. Okay, so this is just combining what we've done here. So Woden, worhte, weos, Wolder, Alwalda, Rumma, Roda, Rasatatus, Richegod. Okay, fantastic. Moving on. Sylf, Sothkuning, Salaneriand. Okay, what's going on here? Okay, so we have Sylf, and this is self, and the word self or sylf in Old English, it's pretty interesting. It's used adjectivally. It's used more like an adjective, like to mean like very. If I already in the context of not so much intensifying, but like kind of putting emphasis on. It's hard to explain. You kind of have to really look at a lot of a lot of Anglo-Saxon literature to really understand this word, because it also means own. So like if I were to say my own sword, you can use self or sulf in that context as well, instead of Aachen, meaning origin of a word own, as in to possess. So sulf, it could be translated self or very or own, but in this case, I would think this would mean like self, as in like the deity himself, and like emphasizing the like the very one, the very deity who did. Um, as opposed to the very in the other context would be this dish is very good, if that makes sense. So just to delineate the two varies that I'm talking about here. Sylf Solthkuning Salda Nerjand. So what I have here is self, used adjectively. Then solth. Solth is the origin of the word sooth. We don't really use as much today in present English. I mean, you could if you want. That'd be cool if you did, but it means truth. But this is truth in the context of like absolute truth, like water is wet, fire is hot, 1+1 = 2. As opposed to just for those of you who really want a more nuanced understanding of Old English, there's also Richt, which is also means true, but means to a proper standard. Like okay, like what's true, as in like what's the facts of the matter. Like if I want to say I want to know the truth, you could say that in Old English is I want. Okay, I'm going to translate literally from Old English to modern English. I want to know the right. If that makes sense. It's a weird way of speaking now, but yeah, or I told the whole truth, or I told the whole right, if you will, recht, if you will. Anyway, but that's an aside. So sylf, so solth as in absolute truth. So self, truth, king, kuning. Saula, nerjand. Okay, this is interesting of itself. So saula here, this is in the plural genitive. A lot of Anglo-Saxon or Germanic literature is like this, where you'd have the genitive noun and then the nominative like title, so to speak. Well, the whole thing is like a title. It's a very poetic epithet, if you will. So like soul savior, nerjand. That's that you could translate as savior, and in fact, I believe this word is also was applied to describing Jesus in the Anglo-Saxon literature as well, which is pretty interesting of itself. So yeah, this is essentially self, truth king, soul's savior, and nerjand is in the nominative. Whatnot. I mean, there's so much more to say about this last word, because the end there, yeah, that indicates a noun, but its origins are in the present participle. We also see this in the word friend, yeah, with the end there. So anyway, that's an aside. I don't want to mix you guys up, but anyway, so self, truth, king, soul, savior. And then we have se us al forjaf that way on liviath. Liviath or liviath. Okay. So what do we have here? So se, generally in a lot of Anglo-Saxon literature, prose and a lot in poetry, if you will, se is in this context means he. Whereas normally you would see it as like a way of saying the masculine nominative, like how you would say in German der, right? So se here or se is like the German der, like literally, but within the context of Old English, this word means he. All right, so he, us. So we have the plural dative. So hey, so he to us, if you will. Hang on, let's throw my translation here. So he, us, all bestowed that we in live. That's a very literal translation. And the thing is, forjaf, yeah, that's the past tense of forgevan, like, well, origin of the word forgive, but the thing is, forgevan has many meanings, but in this context it means like granted, like to grant or to bestow. So, or sorry, bestow. And So he bestowed us, gave to us. So us is in the plural dative. Um, that we in live. So yeah, he bestowed. Bestowed. Oh God, I can't even speak my own language anymore. So he bestowed. He. Well, I mean, you could flip it around to say that he bestowed us all that we in live. So yeah, yeah. So the thing is, the hang on, I'm just trying to uh see here, because thing is, it's interesting. I'm looking at the word owl here. The word all is an adjective, um, and it can also be used adverbally as well. So that's something to bear in mind. So, anyway, so let's move right on. So und eft at tam ende alum weldeth. So literally, and again at the end alum weldeth. Okay, so alum. Okay, so we have an actual plural dative there. In this case, it's being used adverbally. So the word all, or owl in Old English, the way it's used, it's like saying, "Oh, he's all good. Oh, he's quite good." You know, it's like the Anglo-Saxon way of saying quite or whole, like yeah, as in complete. Yeah. So this yeah. So whole. Um, yeah, if that makes sense. So holy wields, and I have a very literal translation here, which will make sense after I explain why I did this. Anyway, wields. That's funny. It's in the present tense here. Wildeth. Wields. Anyway, and then we have mon that is melted silver. Okay, so the first part here is mon, and that's literally, if you want to translate that, that's like saying man's kind, like man's like. I mean, a very nice translation of this would be just saying mankind, but like, man here is in the plural genitive, and kunna is in the is in the dative, I believe, a singular dative. I think so, yeah. And then that is male toad silva. So male toad here, that is how can I word it? It's a name for God in Anglo-Saxon literature. You see a lot, and it has the connotation of like fate, or I've seen some translations say measurer, because, and hang on, so they go a little deeper. So here's my translation. So man's kind, that is male to itself one, because okay, so just okay, I'll put male to the side, but like silva here, what's going on here? So we had the earlier sulf, and now we got silva. So this is silva here is now a weak adjective that's masculine in the nominative, and it's accompanying male toad, which is also in the masculine, I would think, because we're talking about a male deity here. So, and the final a there after silva indicates that. So you wouldn't put, let's say, silva with like you wouldn't put like a feminine noun, sorry, a feminine adjective with a masculine noun. That's like ungrammatical. That just doesn't make sense, right? So, but meotod here, I probably would have to make a whole video on this word alone, because a lot could be said from it. So, but to be brief within this video, meotod, you could easily translate as dispenser of fate, because the word itself, from best of my knowledge, it on the surface, it looks like a past participle of the verb metian, meaning to measure. I mean, okay, that's an overgeneralized definition of that verb metian, because metian can mean a bunch of things. And then we have the compound of metodwang, meaning you you could translate it as fated field or measured field, if you will, or battlefield. And so this makes sense in relation to this translation, because we're talking about Woden here. And for those of you not familiar with Norse literature, well, Woden, he has one of the places that he dwells goes to is Valhalla, where dead warriors go, where fallen warriors go. When dead warriors leave their body, they as spirit soul go to Valhalla. And so Woden is associated with the dead in this context, so it's interesting how we have that here. As an aside, Meotod is also related to Old Norse, and forgive my bad pronunciation, Mjoltodr, Old Saxon method, Old High German, reconstructed is Messolt, but then again, I really should make a video on this name alone, because this is just I don't think I'm even scratching the surface of this word alone. But anyway, moving right on. So, info. Info. Here we have the translation. Woden worhte weos wolder alwalda rumo roderas that is richa god. Sulfa sotkuning salda neriand. Se us al forjava that we on livjath. Und eft at them ende alum waldeth munna kunna that is meotod silva. Okay, so I know I said translation and I read the Old English, but here's my take at this work. So Woden worked of a sacred place, glory all powerful one, spacious upper regions. That is powerful God. Okay, well I should put that is a powerful God, because let's bear in mind of our present English speaking audience. Self truth king, soul savior, he us all bestowed that we live. Yeah, my translations tend to be very clunky and very technical for those. Well, anyway, and again at the end, holy wields mankind. That is Meotod, self one, dispenser of fate. I have to admit, my translation is not the best, but I like to be literal, so you don't really lose the meaning. You don't lose the technical grammar, because I'm a person that likes to keep technical grammar. So for somebody studying grammar, this would actually be very helpful. For somebody wanting something nice and poetic to read, I wouldn't recommend my translation. But that's just me being petty with myself. But yeah. So that's so Woden worked of a sacred place. And we gotta. I'm just looking at now. Ruma roderas. Because Ruma. The thing is, I'm just thinking now. Roderas. Yeah, that's the nominative. And also that can be accusative depending on the context. But so I hope this translation makes sense in some shape or form. Anyway, guys, so before I end this video off, so this is my current understanding of the text. My opinion on this could change over time as I learn more. But this is my best shot at it, and this is a different translation than what you normally see. On the internet regards to this stuff. Yeah, and I translate sacred place and not sacred image. because you have the mention of Ruma Rodras, you know. But then again, I mean, someone could look at this and think, oh well, Woden worked of a sacred image, glory all Father, upper, but no. I have to bear no. I'm gonna stick with sacred place for now. Okay, I'm not gonna overthink it. This is my current understanding of this stanza as it stands. Oh boy. Okay. Anyway, guys. Thank you for watching, and this video is 30 minutes long. Oh my god. I don't think anyone's gonna make it this far. Anyway, thank you for watching, and please subscribe if you're new. And if you really like the channel, please become a patron at my Patreon page down below. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.